like over the past few episodes, Mazan, we've been looking at heng sort of everything, right?
Yeah,
Going from movies to branding to
software.
how software to how actually operating systems and so on. So it's a bit of a broad spectrum. But recently, I came across like this, at least in terms of work and in terms of how the world is progressing in this new normal.
Yeah,
I came across this article which I related to you as well. How one of the major players in the social media spectrum, one of the OGs
yeah.
essentially, Twitter, and
Twitter. Yeah.
how Jack Dorsey and his team rather has considered, even after this pandemic situation, to make a majority, 70 to 80% or more than that, majority of their roles permanently remote, permanently work from home. And I
Permanently
think
work
I
from
think I think that's quite an interesting sort of perspective and a way to go about it, Kiela.
Yeah.
Um, I have a few ideas as to how this might work because I think I've been working in that space for quite for quite some time now. Um, but I think I think it's interesting because it says two things about work in general. Um, one thing I feel is because I think this has been a litmus test and it has been an opportunity for people to be thrown into like a situation where they wouldn't otherwise even experiment in. So
Yeah.
now people have realized that in the broader or the grander scheme of things, it is possible because work is specialized and work is in such a way that interaction points are not necessary unless it is something that requires, like, let's say, delivery or like a physical activity to take place.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, of course, I think I'm skewed here because I understand certain types of work does not require interaction points,
Yeah.
but and I think even you would be on the same bandwagon, right? Most of the work that you do would also be like that, don't you think?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, yes, because I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of like hundreds and thousands of graphic designers and art directors who are working from one place, but their business might be in a completely other country, like
Hmm.
different country, and that might be their sole income, right? Like if you look at like sites like Fiverr and everything, they are working from home essentially, and their work is in a completely different country, and they are designers. They take their brief, and from that place itself to execution, it is done from your own house. So I think I think as you said, like this has been like a litmus test, and like because of this whole situation, we've been thrown into this sort of uh, unforeseen, I guess, situation, and now we have to kind of come up with solutions and different ways of doing things.
Hmm.
Now we've come to this culture of social distancing, and seriously, like I mean, we are living in a world. It's not even I can't even say country. In a world where everything is still, right?
Yeah.
No one's going out. Majority of the workforce is either working from home, or some of them have lost their jobs. It's a real situation. So I mean, we have to really think how to do things in a different way now. Maybe ask the question, maybe the things that we did do before might have been useless on the first place, but we
Yeah.
did it for other purposes, right? So of course, even yeah, when you showed me the article, that was super cool for
Hmm.
them to say, you know what, 72, it's a lot of that's a majority of your workforce working from home.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new like landscape of logistics, HR, and everything coming in together. They are really going to make it happen so that majority of the workforce work from home. So that's a really cool new culture that we are stepping into.
I think though, Mashang, in that sense, there's like a sort of a normative paradigm shift also. What I mean by that is, see, the type of world that we sort of remember and the type of work that we remember is going to change forever in more ways than one, right? The kind of
Yep, pretty
experiences
much.
that we wanted to have, the kind of interactions that we had. I mean, frankly, to this day, I think most people have been trying to fill up the time with content, and they're consuming much more online. They're consuming much more in terms of entertainment. And now I've come to a point where it almost looks as if like watching a movie or a television show from a few years ago, and when you see gatherings, innately, like unconsciously, I start thinking, why are they together? Why are they?
Yeah.
It feels abnormal.
I
Which is
feel the same. Yeah.
which is really weird. And
Yeah.
I think moving forward, if we have a situation like this for a long time, I feel a lot of other companies will also fall into that bandwagon, because financially it makes sense in a way as well. I mean, bottom lines wise, zero rent
Overheads.
for companies
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
just do it, just
Especially
ask
for
them.
startups. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you'd see a lot of businesses crash also because of it. So if we take like an immediate tangent to that, you might have smaller restaurants or cafes or bistros that are centered around central business districts of these
Yeah.
companies, and
Yeah.
the foot traffic that you would generally get from people coming for lunch or dinner or like a coffee just immediately plummets, because now not only will you be able to get into business, that's great, you can come back to work, but then you won't have people that would usually come in because now they're
Yeah.
working remotely, which would see other businesses thrive as well, like the delivery industry, for example, food services via delivery. But I think one problem though that I see is maybe the fact that work from home being permanent is one idea, but what I feel sad about is whether social distancing would become a permanent concept, whether people will get accustomed to that.
I think. Uh, I think. Yeah. Definitely. I think that's. I think we have to take in the possibility that might be the case, right? Because I'm sure now, for example, if we look at how this year is going to pan out, 2020, we know for a fact that there's not going to be any vaccine that's going to see the light of day at least until the end of this year, which means until December. I mean, we are already almost at June, halfway through.
Yeah.
So we know for a fact that at least until the end of this year, we are going to be having that system. We are going to have to follow social distancing. Even after that, we'll have to follow social distancing for a while, just because you. I don't know. I feel the same thing that you feel like when I think about now going to see a movie in a theater and you have so much of people in close proximity. I feel like now it's a bit abnormal, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if we go with this sense for another 6-7 months, at least, yeah, sure, you'll see people in gatherings, but you always have in the back of your mind that kind of lever that kind of says stop, don't go too close or don't stay.
It's the speculation, really, like the fact that
Yeah.
people will be innately worried about everything, and
Yeah.
it has become like a situation where I think we are slightly going a tangent. We are digressing. We have to digress back to the point, but
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you will see a spike in work and the types of work that will enable people to work from home more often.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can't avoid, Masan. Like you cannot avoid situations like, for example, food services. You can't do that remotely, right? You can't avoid situations of things like construction, for example. Those are stalwarts of industry. You need those things in order to develop, in order to take the country forward, take the world forward, essentially. So you can't delegate those out, or you can't make those permanently remote as such. The only thing you can do is try to make those priority and maybe have a safer place of work for those individuals. Whereas anything that requires you to be in front of a computer or simply do crunch numbers, or anything like yours, like graphic work or creative efforts or teaching, for example, all of these things can be manifested online, but that creates another problem, right? It creates a generational problem for kids who are growing up during this time.
No, actually, I
They
don't think
don't.
it'll create for them. They'll be
don't
chill with it.
No, it's not
because
about
they
them being
already
chill with it. I'm saying they
it's,
won't experience the world as it should be experienced.
see, that's a subjective thing. That's a perspective thing. You think that this is the norm that you had as growing up, but for a new generation, that might not be the case. So they are born into a different world, right? And as a wise man once said, life will fast, life finds a way. Jeff Goldblum said, "Life finds a way." Right?